Welcome everybody to episode 5 of Rated T. Today we are covering the 1927 silent film Eyes of the Totem. And joining me today, the creative director of the Rainiers, the man needs no introduction, Casey Catherwood. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I've been a fan of the program for so long, and I've been begging you to cover Eyes of the Totem. Thank you so much for having me.
So Casey, what do you got going on, man? The season just ended. What are you doing?
Season has ended. It was a really, really special thing to be a part of, welcoming people back to the park in 2021 after the year without the great COVID freeze on everything fun. And now, after what has felt like the longest season I've ever been a part of, and it is true, it was, we played into October. We are regrouping, we are recollecting, and we are getting excited for what fall and winter holds, which is more creative, fun, exciting projects.
Okay, so basic plot. How would you describe it?
Like most silent movies, it kind of wanders over its hour and a half, but at its core, Eyes of the Totem is a silent epic that spans, gotta be 20 years. That it has love, lust, murder, and it all takes place under the watching eyes of a famous totem pole.
So this film was released in 1927, stars Wanda Hawley. You familiar with
I have not heard of Wanda Hawley.
Neither have I. Directed by W.S. Van Dyke, known as One Take Woody. He just went on the first take on every single one. He could put out films very frequently and under budget. So.
And it made him famous. I mean, he was a big-time Hollywood director.
Yeah. He got nominated for a couple of Oscars. I think actually won one. So hats off to
pretty awesome.
One Take Woody. The good. What did you like about this movie?
Like most great silent pictures, the cinematography in this movie is really, really cool. Some of the opening shots with the snow and the mountains, obviously the cool sort of pushed in shots of the totem pole and the eyes. I always look at a movie like this and think how cool it would be as a graphic novel, and this one definitely lives up to that standard. I also like the hairstyles.
There's a lot of good hairstyles, I would say, especially like the ladies in the Golden Dragon Cafe. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. The sets were really, really cool, albeit a little bit rickety in some of the fighting scenes. But the best thing about this movie is kind of doing the Easter egg hunt for what part of Tacoma
exactly
each scene takes place in. The score for this is really, really cool. It definitely feels like it harkens back to that older time you're used to, but it does have there's a modern sensibility to it as well. I would love if they would somehow find a way to press it on vinyl, or how do we get this movie to become a every year or every other year collaboration with the Tacoma Symphony, just like they would have done back in the day.
A nod back to the old times.
Totally.
Yeah. Now let's just talk about some of the weird stuff. Not necessarily bad.
The main villain, who is a character, a sinister man named LaRue, it's hard to understand why or what drives his murderous rage, because there's a part where he's skiing and he's thinking about killing someone that he doesn't know, clearly, and then he does kill a man for money, but then at the very end of the movie, he just decides to kill a young girl that it seems he was sort of maybe sexually attracted to, but then it becomes murderous. This man LaRue is a demon.
Yeah.
And it shows in the eyes.
What the hell is LaRue doing out in this is like middle of absolute nowhere.
Yeah, he's skiing somewhere in the absolute remote wilderness, and he happens to peek through their window to kind of reveal his eyes for the first time. This is the first 3 minutes of this movie. Obviously introduces him as a character and the villain, but like, what the hell is he doing? Again, he's always in the right place at the right time to show his scary eyes and leer at people.
It's almost like so stereotypically a silent movie that it verges on being comical in a couple parts. Like, I know there's a part the police chief had like a literal like shakes fist like LaRue. I was like, oh my god. You halfway expected like LaRue to tie up somebody to a train track.
Oh, totally. There were some vaudevillian scenes.
Yeah.
The last fight is really weird.
I had it as like a good point and like a weird point because it is so long and over the top.
Oh, yeah.
It like goes into kind of a Family Guy chicken fight territory.
It just turned into a
I
long,
know.
drawn out, spinning around, throwing through tables, moving into another room, falling down some stairs, and finally getting shot. I mean, he was like a ravenous, horny, raging bull that could only be stopped by the chief's bullet.
I know, and even like when he gets shot, it's just like, oh my, come on.
Oh, the spin around?
Yeah, exactly.
It was nice. I mean, here's the thing. It was 1924, 25 when they filmed this. The art of acting, especially when you couldn't talk, no sound, you had to ham it up a little bit.
Okay, so for the Tacoma Tie in this movie, H.C. Weaver started his studio in 1924 over in Titlow Beach. Had the third biggest studio in the country at the time. Hollywood by the Sea is what he wanted to call it. So
again, a typical Tacoma story where a guy from here saw the potential, and this is a land of dreamers, man. And he had a big dream that they could basically rival Hollywood and send, other pictures here and just make this into like you said, Hollywood by the Sea.
Unfortunately, his timing was absolutely terrible.
Poor timing.
So he basically built the studio right before the transition from silent films to talkies, and his studio, along with some of the actors in this movie, just didn't make the transition. So the titular totem pole of this movie was erected in 1903, right before President Roosevelt came and visited our great city. So we know now that it wasn't really made by local tribes. Like totem poles weren't even a thing around here. So,
and going back and looking at it and thinking of my memories for it, I can sort of see how a bunch of uneducated, mostly white people in the 1920s and 30s would look at it and go, that's really cool. And then you find out more about it. Yeah. It's torn down now. It was taken down piece by piece in August.
A couple months ago.
And while it's very interesting that it coincides so kind of weirdly with this movie being resurfaced, it's probably for the best.
So the Tacoma Hotel, right where the totem pole was, is actually the oldest hotel in Tacoma. It predates Stadium High School, which originally was a hotel. Yeah. Sadly burned down. It was at the intersection of 10th and A Street.
10th and A is certainly not the gathering place that it once was.
Unfortunately. The Annie Wright Schools makes an appearance. This is where Betty Hardy is at her seminary. Mm-hmm. Not too much to say here. It's just like one exterior shot where they're all like...
They're doing like a
what are they doing?
They're doing like coordinated dance calisthenics.
Yeah.
And we see this kind of a buoyant, joyful young lady who we have only known before this as a baby.
Yeah.
And she's sort of the leader of the pack in this coordinated movement that they're doing outside on the lawn.
Another location that's featured is a very famous one, showed up in multiple movies, Thornwood Castle. Mm-hmm. So it's the outside of the Houston residence. They're showing that like the Houstons are like fairly well off.
Yeah, they are loaded.
It's been in Stephen King's Rose Red, There Will Be Blood, and have you ever been to Thornwood?
No, but now I really want to go.
Yeah, now I haven't been there either. It's over in Lakewood, which is probably part of Tacoma at the time, I'm guessing. So, the Golden Dragon Cafe. Yeah, so the exterior was filmed at the Winthrop Hotel at the time, which is on Commerce Street. Now it's the Winthrop Apartments.
All those buildings in the 1920s. This kind of caused me to go back and look at all sorts of old compare and contrast pictures of the city in the 20s, 30s, and then compared to now, and you see the sort of overlay pictures, and you can't really say enough good things about the architecture in that era. The buildings were super cool and had to have been state of the art.
The interior, I think, was filmed like at the studio.
It kind of feels like a mix of like an old Chinese restaurant and then the tiki bar that's at the bottom of the new McMenamins.
Yeah.
1000% about the spectacle. You have to bang a gong to get inside of it. They have afternoon tea dances that are all the rage. And there's like a performance and there's a stage show, and Tacoma, we need to make that happen. At least every once in a while, like once a year, have a night out where it's a big to-do.
Yeah. During the final scene when the police are like speeding down to the Golden Dragon, you see a lot of shots of downtown Tacoma. You could even see like the clock tower by
in
Old
the very
City Hall. It's like just for like a second, but you can clearly see it.
There. It's so cool.
Yeah. A lot of, I would definitely like recommend just watching that part over and over and seeing just what downtown Tacoma looked like back in the day. All right, so today we covered the 1927 movie Eyes of the Totem. So what did you think about the movie? Overall thoughts?
Again, the cinematography is striking. The sheer provenance and history that this has as a piece of Tacoma's legacy, super cool. And at the end of the day, I liked the hairstyle, so I would give it a 9 out of 10.
9
out of 10.
Wow,
what about you?
I would have to give this one probably a 7 out of 10. I liked it. I don't watch that many silent films, so it's kind of hard for me to separate it from what's kind of gone from that era of filmmaking. You know what I mean? So some of it does seem a bit weird now, but it was typical for the day. But it was still enjoyable to watch, so I liked it.
And you would watch it again if the Tacoma Symphony was performing it score live.
Yeah, I think we need to, like, imagine how cool that would be at the Rialto Theater.
Incredible.
I want to thank Casey Catherwood for joining me on this one.
Thank you so much. Great film and a great time being on the program.
Yeah, definitely. So everybody make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. And we'll see you on the next one.